So every time a publisher opens for submissions, there's a whole bunch of mistakes that we see quite quickly when we need to decide what to accept. Other times, it's actually very difficult because we get so many amazing books and spaces are limited. We can only, for example, accept 5 or 6 books. I've heard of max 10 submissions normally being accepted, but then you get 500, 700, 1,000 books being sent in. So most likely, if you're watching this video, you recently submitted a book to a publisher and got rejected. Or if you're really good at what you're doing a bit of research. Good on you. So let's first look at 10 basic reasons why books get rejected. But then we're also going to look at what I've personally experienced, what my take is, and just a bit of what I want to share with how I make my decisions and what influences me and most likely is the reason you got rejected. Especially if you know you're a good author, you're experienced, you have some books out. It might not even be an issue with your book, but we'll get to that. So first, the 10 basic reasons why you probably got rejected. The first one is always submission guidelines. Read it carefully, double check, make sure. If they ask for attachments, if they ask for a bio, only the first 3 chapters, don't submit the full manuscript. Double check, make sure everything, because you need to follow the instructions. Submitting the wrong genre, again, if you read the submission guidelines, you wouldn't send in a romance novel. Look at if they put comparable works there, like the types of books, types of authors. Make sure your book fits in. Don't just hope it fits in. A weak or slow opening. So most likely, you only required to submit the first 3 chapters. With so many books coming in, a publisher most likely makes their decision on the first half a page. So I would read the synopsis, get a clear picture of what to expect. So the moment I start reading, I know what promise you made. This is the type of book you're going to read. And if I read that opening and it's a completely different tone and feel, and it doesn't draw me in, I don't even feel like I'm reading the book that was promised in the synopsis, then it's most likely going to end in a rejection. If it looks like it's going to be a fast-paced, hardcore horror novel, it needs to start that way, or at least get to the action as quickly as possible. Poor grammar. We normally see this in the submissions email already. If you're going to submit a novel, make sure it's the absolute best it can be. You're only required to submit the first 3 chapters, a synopsis. It doesn't take that long to give it a proper edit, check for spelling and grammar mistakes, because if we still see those mistakes, it tells us that, okay, so either you didn't take the time and effort, why should we, or you don't even know these are mistakes. So clearly that is a sign of things to come, unfortunately. The fifth one is an overuse of tropes, or at least not being original. We love vampire novels. That does not mean we want the same old stories, the retellings. In the submission guidelines, it might say, just always check with the publisher, that they want those like real old school horror novels. Then that's what you send them. But if they ask for an original twist on the old tropes, then you need to be original. If your novel doesn't fit, don't submit. The next one is flat characters. So we've already read in the synopsis who we're going to meet, what they're going to do. We can pick up on some of their personality traits, some of their weaknesses that they need to overcome. So when you introduce these characters to us, we kind of already know a bit about them and we want to learn more. So the tactic, the method that you use to introduce that character needs to be strong. A reader would not even have that synopsis to look at first. So they're going to go straight into that book and meet this character. And if it falls flat on the first few pages, it's too late to say, oh, you'll get to meet them throughout the book. It'll pick up. That's not going to happen. A lot of readers on Amazon go in, they look that look inside feature, they start reading the first few pages, flat characters, two-dimensional, you've lost them. Then we've got pacing issues. So like I mentioned earlier, if a book promises to be a fast-paced page turner, it needs to start that way. If it's a slow burn, yes, you can start slow, but at least bring in an aspect of creepiness. Maybe a prologue that shows some of the action first, and then we go to the beginning where the couple moves into the house and we know the house is haunted or something horrible happened there, so we kind of know what to expect. A big issue with pacing at the beginning of a book with a submission is that normally there's an info dump, which we all know is not a good thing. If you're building a world, you don't have to introduce us to the world immediately. So definitely make sure there are no info dumps in your first 3 chapters, especially. Hey, who knew? I'm a ventriloquist. So, the next one is a weak plot or just no clear conflict. We read the synopsis, we say, okay, so this is a story about a family, but okay, so this happens, but it doesn't seem like it's that bad, or there's no clear bad guy in the story. You do get literary fiction where it's more about getting to know the person as they go through certain things. But if you're writing horror, genre fiction, supernatural, dark fiction, speculative, whatever, there needs to be the basic things of protagonist, antagonist, inciting incident, things happen, and you have to look at pacing. So if we read through the synopsis, we see what's to come or what's not to come. We start reading the first few chapters. It needs to be clear what you promised, that's to come. We need to start picking up on it early on. Without conflict, there is no story. Without characters not getting along, without even the people working together can't all get along. Your protagonist needs a strong antagonist. Your protagonist needs obstacles in his way. That's the way you're going to get the reader invested. That is the way you're going to build empathy and pull in the reader. Number 9, a lack of voice or originality. This is a big one. The moment I start reading, especially in a first-person story, your voice needs to be very strong. And this is something we know that takes a lot of practice. It comes from years and years of writing, exercises, short stories, all of that stuff. It's something that develops over time. So if I come in there and I feel this and experience this strong voice, I'm going to be very optimistic of what's to come, because I can see, okay, this person has been owning their craft for quite some time. I'm probably going to give them the benefit of the doubt and keep reading a bit further, see what happens. But in a first-person story, the voice needs to be very strong. I need to immediately pick up on that person's personality, their sense of humor, and it makes it more difficult. Just the way that that person sees the world and describes it, puts it into words. Where with a third-person story, it's easier to use a distant, like third-person distant, or third-person medium distance, where you can focus more on the setting, the atmosphere, and the tone of the story. To kind of lure the reader in. With first person, your voice needs to be especially strong. And finally, again, back to the email, your professionalism or unprofessionalism and your basic attitude. So we've seen authors come in and promise the world they're the next Stephen King, their work is absolutely amazing, etc. And most of the time it completely isn't. They probably just got a lot of great feedback from family and friends, and they've lived on this level of positivism, if that's even the right word, where they believe they are these amazing writers, which means they didn't take the time and effort to learn more. They were never open to learning more. And that's a very bad thing. As an author, we have to keep working and learning and doing all kinds of exercises. I've seen authors handle rejections quite badly. I've had people offer me money to accept their book, or offer kind of vanity publishing deals where they'll pay if for the editing and cover if we'll still do the book and put our name on it. Remember, as a company, and the publisher of Crystal Lake Publishing, my job is brand protection. My job is to make sure we publish only the best quality books. It's not just about making money. It's also, there's a lot of stuff, but I also have to think of the people who work here. I have to think of our future. I have to think about how they're going to spend their time. I mean, how many hours and weeks and months and years sometimes it takes to get a book ready and marketed and published, etc. And an especially aggressive email is just going to get, or reply to a publisher is only going to get you on a blacklist. And remember, just like authors who stay in touch and connect and talk about bad publishing experiences, bad presses, publishers, a lot of us are also friends and we also chat and warn each other about certain things and people and so on. So always be careful, always be professional, put your best foot forward, maintain a relationship with any publisher or editor that you've met because you never know what doors are going to open. You need to keep learning, you're going to get better, your book is going to improve, maybe you can submit again next year. So if a publisher does reject your book, you don't even have to reply. Most publishers prefer you don't. But a nice thank you for your time email is also fine. Just don't say something like, can I send you another book? You should have sent your best work in the first place. Don't tell them how amazing this other book is. You're pretty much just wasting their and your time. Okay, so those are the basic 10 reasons. Now I'm going to get more into my personal experience during our current submissions open submission window. So firstly, like I said, as the publisher, I've got a team of people working for me and they're all super busy, all behind schedule, overworked. We work weekends, we work nights. I personally work 12 to 15 hours a day, even on weekends. I'm actually recording this on a Saturday morning, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I need to make sure that their time is spent moving forward, working on the right books, and not spending too much time on certain books. So I need to look at how much work is it going to be for us to get this book ready to go. A book, you can have an amazing story and it only needs some edits, but how many edits? How long is it going to take my editor, or if I'm hiring a third party editor, they're going to charge me more depending on how long it takes them. How many hours? 10, 15, 30, 50. It's a big job editing a book and getting it ready to go. For instance, if the author does if the author does a lot of head hopping, jumping from one person's point of view to another person's point of view when it's actually only supposed to be a normal third person point of view on one character, you can fix that, but it's going to take a lot of work. There are certain habits that authors have that they need to either know about, beta readers need to inform them, or editors can tell them, and most likely they don't want to fix it. These are the things that, especially if, let's say there's 7 great books, I need to decide and only take 3. Something like that can get you rejected. So beware of that. The next one is marketability. So let's say you do get past the slush readers. We take the full manuscript, we go through that. Everything is good. You didn't make those first 10 basic mistakes we talked about. Now the book comes back to me and I need to make the final decision. Even my editor-in-chief says, this is a maybe or a yes. It's up to me now. Even if it's a yes from them, I'd appreciate more of a like, oh, definitely grab this as quickly as possible. That's the dream scenario, but that doesn't happen every day. So what happens then is I need to look at this as a full package. I need to look at the theme of the book, the genre, the subgenre, how involved this author is on social media and all that stuff. And yes, we don't want to judge a book on how big your newsletter is or how much of an extrovert you are. But if I can at least see that you are involved in a writing community, reaching out to readers, you go to conventions or book signings, or at least you are learning how to do these things, it shows me promise that we can work with we can help you develop and shape you as an author going forward. But if we see that there's going to be no involvement from you, you expect the publisher to do everything and you just to write the next book. Unfortunately, publishing doesn't work like that anymore. Whether you self-publish or you go the traditional route, you need to be quite involved. The publisher will handle most of the nightmares, fighting with printers and Amazon and distributors and whatever, and keep that away from the author. But we need that buzz to get going. So I need to look at how well is that subgenre selling at the moment, and if I think this book can make money. Because in the end, a publishing house is a business, and we've published over 300 books. So I kind of feel like, from my experience, I know what I can sell. I'm familiar with a lot of our readers. I know what they like. Um, I know what kind of keywords to use on Amazon. And some books are amazing stories, but they're very difficult to classify. It's very difficult to tell Amazon, especially, who to market this book for. You can't just say this is a horror book. What kind of horror? There's so many different levels to it. And that makes it more difficult to sell. If you do have a horror novel, make sure there's also a subgenre of horror that we can target. Because we need to know where the readers are to get them. And now we get to the biggest one. And this is the one that I'm experiencing right now. Your book is submitted, wonderful synopsis, first 3 chapters, bio, everything. It's a good product. The overall package is there. I can see you're a hard worker, everything. But most of the books that I'm considering now are absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. From basically the distance that I'm viewing them at, which is not that of an editor who's read every single word. I need to look at this book of yours and compare it to 50, 60, 70 other books. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those books as a whole. If you gave me your book, let's say you self-published it, or a friend gives me your book to read just for fun, and I read it and I say, oh, that was a nice book, that was good, I'd give it a 3 or 4 star book. Great. But since this is an open submissions period, that 3 or 4 star book just isn't gonna make it. If it's being compared to 5-star books. And it's very difficult to judge a 3-star book immediately. I really need to dive into it. But looking at this book of yours and comparing it to the other hundreds of submissions that I've already read, it needs to stand out. Sometimes I can clearly see, okay, it's all good. The quality of the writing, the craft itself, is just not there yet. It's compared to the other books, and that's the thing, like, these books are being compared to each other. Compared to the other books, it's just not at that top level that it can be. It could change. You're going to get better. You're going to improve your book. Keep writing, keep submitting. But for now, that's a no. And now I've got another 20 or 30 very similar books. I can start looking at maybe some of the subgenres, the settings, the time period it plays off. Let's say there's 3 books taking place in the 1800s, or books with railroads, or 5 vampire submissions. I need to basically decide which one is the best and cut the rest, unfortunately. Or I can take 2 of them and just make sure we publish them like a year apart, for instance. But that's how I'm also going to cut going forward for that submission period. Then, now I've also got this list of 20 maybes to yes that I think are 5-star books, all amazing. Unless I can offer you a massive advance to wait 3 years, which kind of isn't what we want to do in indie publishing, as in wait that long, or most small presses can't afford a big advance. So we need to accept whatever books we can handle within the next year and a half, max 2 years kind of thing. So again, we know that means we can only accept 5 or 6 or 10 books. So now I have to compare these books again and I believe they're all 5 stars. Which one sticks with me? Which one stands out? Which one keeps nagging at me like that's the one? That's don't miss that one. I kind of get that fear of like if I let this one slip through, I'm gonna be sorry. And it's difficult to say exactly what makes that book stand out. It's like hearing a song and the next day, like, what was the name of that song? I actually want to listen to it again, and it keeps nagging at you to experience it again. Those are the books that will most likely get a yes. I'm going to keep spending time on them, keep thinking of how to market and like shape this into a great product, which it already is, but there are so many other books, similar books. So yes, it's difficult to say exactly what that, I know some people call it the X factor is, but just know most likely, and even though you've done everything right, most likely you got a rejection because your book is just compared to so many other books, and it's kind of getting lost in the volume of it all. Some editors or publishers get completely drowned in their work and everything starts looking the same, and then all of a sudden there's that one book that comes along for whatever reason just stands out. So luck of the draw, you just might just get an editor or publisher who likes, especially likes that kind of book that you wrote. Some don't like zombie stories, some love them. um, I believe vampire tales will never get old. Some publishers will outright say no vampires because there's normally that connection to like erotica or a love story. So that's why you also need to research your publishers, get to know what they like, get to know what they publish, especially if for like a magazine or a short story editor, anthology, submission editor, get to know them, read some of their books, see how many first person stories they publish compared to third person stories. There's a lot of little clues you can pick up here and there. So I hope this has helped you at least feel kind of like, okay, it wasn't me that was judged. It wasn't that they absolutely hated my book. It's not that I suck at writing or whatever. The It's like winning the lotto kind of thing. And even if your book does get picked up, there's still no guarantee of success. Even as a publisher, I'm just taking the best bet that I can on this is going to be a successful product. And over the years, I've accepted books that did not do well. I've accepted books that have done amazingly well, and I try and learn from that, but you can never know. It's a gamble either way. So we're all just trying to get and create the best possible book for for the readers out there, and that's all we can do. And just like you need to keep improving and practicing and writing, I'm gonna do the same thing on this side and try and become a better publisher, manager, small press owner, online marketer, and all the stuff that goes with it. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Subscribe. We're going to produce a lot more content like this. I'm going to interview authors and editors and publishers and try and give you as much info as possible on the whole publishing world and just grow together. Thanks.